in this country have been sexually abused. Wow. That is a crisis. That is an epidemic. And clearly, our goal must be to do everything we can to make it easier for women to come forward with these terribly, terribly painful and life-lasting experiences. Make it easier for them to speak their truth. And yet, just the other day, it is hard to talk about President Trump and continue to use the word unbelievable, because things he does literally are unbelievable every other day. But I think maybe he might have hit a new low, even for Trump. And that is, Dr. Ford brought forth her testimony. I think the vast majority of the American people believed her. And the President of the United States, the man who should be telling women that we want to hear your truth, we want to hear your pain, this president, in the most vulgar way imaginable, actually mocked Dr. Ford. What kind of message does that send to women all across this country who are suffering? It sends the message that they will not be believed, they will be dismissed, and the most powerful person in this country will mock them. Even for a disgraceful president like Trump, this is in fact a new low. But Mr. President, it is not even the policies that I'm quite convinced that Kavanaugh will pursue. It is not only the very serious and credible allegations regarding sexual assault that were in no way fully investigated by the FBI. I read the report, and it was a very limited report. It certainly did not do justice to Dr. Ford. It did not even, the FBI agents did not even interview Dr. Ford or Judge Kavanaugh. Now, I don't know how you have an investigation where you don't interview the two major figures in that charge, the allegation. But it's not only the lingering question that came from at least two credible women, but it is also the very important question of Judge Kavanaugh's veracity, his honesty. And I think I heard more than one Republican member of this body saying, well, if he is lying, he should not be seated to the United States Supreme Court. And yet there is, in fact, very strong evidence that the testimony that Judge Kavanaugh has made recently and in years past, when he was first appointed to a judgeship, was not honest. Let me just give you a few examples of that. In his previous testimony before Congress, before the Judiciary Committee, Judge Kavanaugh was asked more than 100 times if he knew about files stolen by Republican staffers from Judiciary Committee Democrats. Republican staffers stole files, and that was pretty clear. And the question that was asked of Judge Kavanaugh was, in fact, had he seen those files? Was he familiar with those files? And the answer that he gave was no, he was not familiar with those files. Well, it turned out that the emails released as part of these hearings show that these files were regularly shared with Kavanaugh while he was on the White House staff. One of the emails, in fact, had the subject line, spying. 2006, Judge Kavanaugh told Congress that he didn't know anything about the NSA warrantless wiretapping program prior to it being reported by the New York Times. This year, an email revealed that while at the White House, he might have been involved in some conversations about that program. Sounds like he was not telling the truth. 2004, Judge Kavanaugh testified that the nomination of William Pryor to the 11th Circuit, quote, was not one that I worked on personally, end quote. Turns out that may not have been true as well. 2006, Judge Kavanaugh testified, quote, I was not involved and am not involved in the questions about the rules governing detention of combatants, end quote. New evidence released as part of these confirmation hearings suggests that that statement may not have been true. Judge Kavanaugh has repeatedly said that he did not have a serious drinking problem, that he never blacked out, never acted in a belligerent way. Well, there are a number of his classmates who suggest otherwise. In fact, there was just a piece in the Washington Post today, signed by 3 of his classmates, I believe at Yale, who suggested the very opposite. Are they lying? Are these people coming forward into the public eye to be abused, to be attacked? Are they lying? Or in fact, is Judge Kavanaugh not telling the truth? Judge Kavanaugh testified that he treated women, quote, as friends and equals, end quote, with dignity and respect. Well, you know, numerous entries in his school yearbook would seem to contradict this. The issue here is not just what he did. The issue is his not telling the truth about what he did. You know, Judge Kavanaugh is not the only person in America to drink a lot in high school, in college, you know, not the only one. And if he had come forward and said, yep, you know, I did have a drinking problem. I've overcome it, but I did. That would have been perhaps telling the truth, but that's not what he said. And on it goes. So, Mr. President, it is likely, as I understand it, that those of us who are opposed to Judge Kavanaugh will in fact be on the losing side of that vote tomorrow. And I'm very, very sorry about that. But history has a funny way of responding to what goes on. And that is that I think this nomination, to a much greater degree than I think anyone would have expected, has aroused the American people from coast to coast. It has aroused them in terms of the issue of sexual assault and whether we deal with that issue honestly. It has aroused the American people in terms of the issue of veracity and whether or not we're going to have a member of the Supreme Court who in fact is honest. And it has aroused the American people in understanding that the function of the United States Supreme Court is to render justice without impartiality, with justice for all, not to simply represent the wealthy and the powerful and billionaire campaign contributors. So I think this whole process has been an enormous learning experience for the American people. And while we may lose tomorrow, I think that the end results of what has taken place here, the disgrace of what has taken place here, will reverberate in a very positive way